All right, now joining us on the guest line, friend of the show, former UFC lightweight champion of the world, future UFC Hall of Famer, Frankie Edgar is with us. Frankie, thanks for the time today, man. What's going on?
No, man, my pleasure. I'm just jamming out to Rocky, getting stressed by my therapist right now.
All right, well, we'll keep it brief. So Santino, your son Santino, big weekend, got on the podium at the New Jersey State Wrestling Tournament. So is he the tougher of your two boys? I mean, he seems like he's, breaking walls, and I'd imagine keeping your hands full. Is he the real future when it comes to wrestling and MMA, or what?
Yeah, as of right now, he's definitely the fire plug in the family. So, he had a good tournament. It's a good way to open up, man. It's the first year they did like a top program, so a little 6-year-old scrap, and it was cool to see.
Huh.
Jersey does it pretty big, man. They do it at the Sun National Arena in Trenton. 12 mats out on the gym floor. It's a pretty good fight.
All right, good stuff. Well, we've all been anxiously, of course, awaiting your next fight. No surprise, it's a big one. UFC 211, May 13th, Dallas, Texas, against Mexico's Yair Rodriguez. So I know this has been in the works, I guess, for a few weeks before ultimately it was announced. How did this particular matchup come together on your end?
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to fight. I wanted to fight May 13th. I know Lamas reached out to me on Twitter a couple times. I was cool with that fight. The UFC looked like they wanted to go in a different direction, and they suggested Yair. And I'm pretty easy, so I said let's do it. May 13th sounds good to me.
Is it fair to say that there's more upside for you in a fight against Yair Rodriguez than maybe against Ricardo Lamas, given that Yair is sort of all the rage right now in a lot of respects, given what he could accomplish in the UFC? Is this a bigger matchup for you or not necessarily?
I don't know. If it's any indicator on the buzz I'm getting, I'm definitely getting a lot of buzz. This fight seems like a pretty big fight. People are interested in seeing Yair and, testing him against someone like myself. So, yeah, the crowd, the buzz has been great, with the media and my social network. So, maybe it is the bigger fight. To me, it doesn't really matter. I still got to show up on May 13th, get the job done.
Frankie, is it something that kind of fires you up a little bit when you face a kind of a young a guy like Yair Rodriguez who has a lot of hype behind him? I remember when I fought Roger Huerta, and, I felt like, maybe the UFC's setting me up here to lose a little bit. Do you get that sense at all or no?
A little bit, I'd be stupid not to see what, the picture painting here a little bit. It's kind of, Yair's kind of in a win-win situation. I think he beats me. That's great for him. It's good for UFC to push a prospect, but, if he loses, he wasn't supposed to win kind of type situation. But for me, a lot's on the line, and, I can't treat it like anything different than any other fight. So that's how I try to approach it, and just go out there and he's an opponent that's dangerous that I got to prepare for.
Frankie, I want to talk to you about your buddy Edson Barbosa's performance this weekend. First of all, he looked amazing, man. I know you train with him daily. Do you feel like this is a guy who can be the champion at 155 pounds? Because, I feel like maybe some of his hiccups through his career, perhaps it was mental. Maybe maybe he folded a little bit against Ferguson, or maybe got caught up in the moment. Do you think that's the case? And what did you think of his performance on Saturday night?
Yeah, I think his performance was, he did the human highlight reel, and, Beneil Dariush is very tough, one of the very best at 155. So to be able to do that at home in Brazil, it was huge for Edson. Yeah, I think he's 100% in line for the title. He's fought nothing but, the best guys. He's beat 2 former champions. And I think he matches up well with, whoever's at the top. And you're right. I do think it's a confidence thing, and as he goes on, his confidence has gotten better. Him and Mark seem to really click, 100%, at the right time during fight week. And, I think it's just his time right now.
Was Mark Henry back in time to train with you today or no?
No, not yet, but he's hitting me up with some videos in Texas. But I'm sure we'll be back to it busy tomorrow.
That Fortaleza jaunt is no joke. It was like my 21st trip to Brazil, but getting there is like you go past it and then you come back to it. But Mark's a good man. I'm sure he's survived worse. So 21 UFC fights for you, Frankie, if my math is right. You just passed the 10-year anniversary of the UFC debut, which was February 3rd, 2007. So physically, dude, like level with me. What feels the worst now compared to then? Unless you just really don't want to give Yair any added motivation, but or I
No,
should say added information. Like what feels
no,
bad compared to
maybe
then?
I'm a little more sore during the week than I was when I was at 24 years old. But no, honestly, I just got this surgery, a groin surgery in January, and I feel better than I ever have in a long time, man. No nagging injuries. Ready to go, ready to get prepared for this fight.
35 years old, I guess, right now. So, I mean, do you think about the future? I mean, you have 3 kids, obviously. I know you're aligned with the UFC gym now. You have your commentating debut in Curitiba, Brazil this weekend, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But, if I was to put a betting line at even money on you fighting past 40, would you take the over or the under?
Oh, man, I got to say take the over right now because I'm still in it. But come talk to me in a few years, I mean, right now I don't see anything slowing down, but who knows what the future holds? Definitely got to prepare for it and be ready for when that time I do walk away. But right now it's not on the table.
At this point, you've prepared for so many different challenges in the UFC that I would imagine a guy like Yair Rodriguez largely unphases you when it comes to the preparation. Who might be more helpful for this training camp than other camps, given stylistically what Yair brings to the table, and how different is the preparation given, his unorthodox style?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, each fight brings its own different challenges, and I'm excited for this one because I really fought someone like Yair. He's kind of the trick master. One trick after the next. Mark is obviously on all over it already, watching film. Anderson Franco, who's mine, Edson and Marlon's Muay Thai coach, he's going to have a big part in this camp as well too. So we'll be ready to go. Having Edson throwing those crazy kicks at me, won't be either.
Yeah. So, all right. So the commentating debut, I was excited to see this. So Brave MMA in Curitiba, Brazil. So you're flying there, correct? I mean, you got to be leaving here in a few days.
I am flying there Wednesday if we don't get, murdered by the snowstorm they're talking about. But, yeah, I'm flying Wednesday. I'm excited, man. I don't know if you guys got any tips for me, but I can definitely use them, I'm sure.
Oh, you'll be great, dude. I mean, what are you most nervous about? And maybe that's the wrong word, but when it comes to doing commentary and calling live fights, I mean, is it the preparation that's daunting? Is it the performance? I'd imagine when it comes to the performance, calling fights like you see them might be easier than sitting on a desk in some respects.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep it natural, man. I really, I've been listening to you guys, and Brian Stan and Rogan and stuff, and, trying to get a little pointers and whatnot. But I got to be myself, otherwise it won't sound authentic. The preparation is a little daunting, like you said. I'll definitely be preparing this week a lot. I just think the whole fact of the 14 or 12 to 14 fights, that's a lot of talking ahead. I think that's what's so scaring me a little bit.
Yeah, no, you get to the point where you really hate the sound of your own voice by the end of a telecast. You just hope that everybody else doesn't hate it.
Right.
But I'd imagine too, some of the guys you're prepping for, there's not a ton out there. That's the thing. I mean, sometimes even guys, UFC newcomers, there's only so much out there. So, well, we wish you the best, man. That's exciting. Almost as exciting as this fight, man. I mean, when I first heard Frankie Edgar, Yair Rodriguez, May 13th, UFC 211. My twin brother's coming. He never comes to fights. He's coming because you're fighting Yair, so you can see it most likely on pay-per-view, May 13th, UFC 211. Appreciate the time, man. Say hi to your folks for us. Stay healthy. Safe trip to and from Brazil, and we look forward to seeing you there in Big D, man. Thank you for hopping on.
Always a pleasure, guys. Good talking to you, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Frankie.
There he is, Frankie Edgar, with us on the Anik and Florian podcast, going to Curitiba this weekend. Dude, I miss you in Brazil, man. I mean, that shit is not easy. I don't have my Portuguese speaker.
I'm your official translator.
I just say com licença. And if that doesn't work, I say desculpe. And then I say sanitarios.
Right? Oh, sanitarios. Yeah, bathroom. Yeah.
Yep. So we got bathroom, excuse me, and I'm sorry, and thank you. And we're good to go.
Exactly.
All right, good stuff there from Frankie Edgar. I mean, dude, that fight against Yair Rodriguez, I know I texted you probably a couple of weeks ago. When word kind of leaked my way. I mean, that is good stuff. And I do think for Frankie, there's more upside there than a Lamas fight, with all due respect to Lamas, who is certainly no picnic. This is a huge, huge fight for both guys.
No, big-time fight, man. Obviously, a lot of hype around Yair Rodriguez right now. We saw what he did against BJ Penn. This guy has been on an absolute tear. And he's a guy that's very difficult to prepare for because he's willing to try anything and everything. But Frankie's one of those guys who's probably seen everything out there. So I love this fight. Both these guys extremely game, important fight. That's a big one.
I also feel like there was a lot of pressure on Frankie Edgar in that Jeremy Stevens fight. Not just the Madison Square Garden angle, the fact that he had lost that fight to Jose Aldo and was staring at a potential 2-fight losing streak that all but buries your championship hopes. That was a huge fight with a lot of pressure, and he certainly rose to the occasion that night when he wasn't even 100% healthy. So I'm excited to see what Frankie can do. I'm excited to see the betting line, as you might expect. So part of a huge show, obviously, coming up, UFC 211.